So what are we looking at when we look at the 9 characters in Theatre Memphis' Sculpture Garden? What you're seeing is like a fantasy baseball team representing various high points in Western performance traditions. It's really a quick and dirty education in theater history. On Friday, February 13th, 2009, Theatre Memphis will mark 30 years in its current building and the 30th anniversary of their Sculpture Garden with the opening of the show Cyrano de Bergerac. At 6:30 p.m. before the opening, at an invitation-only event, the Urban Arts Commission, they're going to designate this garden as a public arts heritage site. That's a new designation recognizing public art that was created prior to the formation of the Urban Arts Commission. Now, collectively, all the pieces in this garden are called Dramatis Personae, the cast of characters. They were commissioned in 1978 by the family of Hubert and Stella Menke and paid for in part by a grant for public art by the Tennessee Arts Commission and also by the National Endowment for the Arts. Lon Anthony, an artist known for his visual puns and whimsical visual images, was chosen to create the pieces. Anthony, who now resides in Florida, was head of the Rhodes College Art Department until sometime in the late 1980s. Okay, so let's look at some of the pieces. So somebody's always trying to blame the downfall of civilization on too much sex and violence in our entertainment. But all pales next to Medea, a play written by Euripides in 431 BCE. It tells the story of Medea. She takes revenge on her inconstant husband Jason by baking their children in a pie and eating them. The darker side of the artist's wit is on display here in this sculpture because you can actually look inside Medea's stomach and see her children in there. Nice and macabre. Now this is old Ham from Endgame, Samuel Beckett's absurd blind tyrant. He sits in a wheelchair because he can't stand up, and he commands Clove, his servant, who's rather stiff but conversely can't sit down. Although many of the characters in Theatre Memphis' Sculpture Garden have actually been represented on stage here in some form or another, as far as I know, the theater has never produced Beckett's bleakest of comedies, Endgame. The nameplate on this piece simply reads Ernest, so it could actually be Jack Worthing, or it could be Algernon Moncrief, or it could simply be a clever impression of Oscar Wilde's importance of being earnest, and I think that's what it is. Now here's old Cyrano himself, the epitome of theatrical romance, and kind of a Richard III character in reverse. Although his gigantic nose fills him with self-doubt, making him think that he's deformed and unlovable, Cyrano has this dazzling wit. He's an incomparable swordsman, a poet, a deep thinker, and his vicarious love for the fair Roxanne has inspired more tributes than probably any other work of dramatic fiction. Now, other than Cyrano, who actually had a real-life counterpart, the divine Sarah Bernhardt is the only sculpture in this garden that's not based on a fictional or fictionalized character. She was the world's most famous actor when the 19th century gave way to the 20th. The prominence given to the cane in this particular sculpture suggests that it's the end of Bernhardt's career when she toured America in spite of her recently amputated leg. Cleopatra kissing the asp. Now this particular piece is all about sex and power, from the tip of her unmistakably phallic headpiece to the stylized sperm she rides like a surfboard. This is Cleopatra from Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, from Shaw's Caesar and Cleopatra, in all of her glory. Punchinello. Now Punchinello is a French-English descendant of Arlecchino from the Commedia dell'arte in Italy. He's a forerunner of Pozzo in Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot. He's this scheming human appetite whose black and white costuming represents the flow of life into death, and he usually gets what he wants by hitting other people with a club. Now, Anthony underscored the lewder side of this character's nature by giving him, we'll call it a very erect and a very dangerous-looking codpiece. Look at this fancy shoe on the bourgeois gentleman. The French satirist Molière intended the term bourgeois gentleman to be an oxymoron, like honest lawyer or government organization. From his lace-covered wrists to his sneering lips, Anthony's interpretation reeks of new money and a bad attitude. This is John Millington Synge's Playboy of the Western World, Christie. He's a rough Irish charmer who attracts trouble, and strange as it may seem, the ladies, when he wanders into a bar one day and starts telling stories about how he killed his own father. These are the characters we'll meet wandering through Theatre Memphis' Sculpture Garden, which is unquestionably one of Memphis's most interesting public art sites. I am Chris Davis, reporting for the Memphis Flyer.